Hi, I am Craig Taggart, and I am the director of Assassins. And in this particular production, I'm also playing Charlie Guiteau. The first time I was introduced to Assassins was back in 1992. I was a freshman in college, and it was the fall musical. And despite the fact that I wasn't a part of that production a quarter of a century ago, it's lived within my brain and really kind of within my marrow ever since, in that this show has a very haunting quality to it. And I mean that in the most fascinating of ways, in that unlike any other piece of art that I've really ever experienced, I was never really able to let this show go. And I wasn't able to let it go because of the incredible talent that was involved with it at the time, but also the message and what I feel is at the core of Assassins. Because albeit a show about political murder, either successful or not, at its core, in my opinion, Assassins is not a political show. It speaks to the us versus them mentality that lives within our country, but it's not the Republican versus Democrat version that we're so acclimated to thinking that it is. To me, Assassins is about those who believe in and subscribe to the American dream, and those individuals who feel left out from it. And that, to me, is the single most fascinating thing about this show, because for me, it was the first time in which somebody, and by somebody I mean Stephen Sondheim and John Weidman, chose to delve into the backstory of individuals with whom, quite frankly, we know little to nothing about. Yes, everybody has heard of John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald, but I'm playing Charlie Guiteau, and until Assassins, I had never heard of him. Here's a man who killed one of the 45 presidents of the United States and didn't know a thing about him. And I think that speaks a lot to traditional history. For example, as kids, we grow up going to elementary school, being taught and told that every kid can grow up to be president. And I fervently believe that. I think that is wholeheartedly true. But what I think also exists, and what Assassins points out, is that any kid can grow up to be his killer. And to me, as an artist, as an actor, and as a director, that's what I find the most compelling, is that honestly, there are two sides to every story. There's not necessarily a right or a wrong, but there's a bigger and broader picture. And that's what Assassins does, is it gives us some insight into these very real people. These are not just psychotics. They are not just nut jobs. They are not just sad, poor, lonely individuals. They are all of that and more. And what Assassins does is it gives us their side of the story. It suggests that we are much more in tune with people that have done these horrific acts. And it makes the audience at times feel uncomfortable in that regard, but I think that's very important. All they were looking for was a connection with somebody, to be heard. And to me, that speaks to all of us. That's what we all want, is to be listened to be heard, to know that we matter. That's the commonality amongst all these various people. They all had different motivations, all had different reasons for doing what they did. Assassins doesn't ask us to forgive what they did, but to understand who these people were and to see ourselves reflected in them, as uncomfortable as that may be.